Welcome to another edition of Biblical Errancy Commentary, the series that takes a critical look at Scripture, pointing out its numerous errors, contradictions, and fallacies. This program teaches a kind of Sunday school in reverse by giving you the biblical information that you should have heard but didn't. With millions of Americans hearing a totally one-sided presentation of the Bible, balance is greatly needed. Only when people are given both sides of an issue can a truly objective analysis be possible. And here to provide the alternative perspective is the editor of Biblical Errancy newsletter, Mr. Dennis McKenzie.
Welcome to the 30th edition of Biblical Errancy Commentary. We're pleased you've joined us. Besides math, geography, and science per se, a fourth topic that has always generated a tremendous amount of interest with respect to the scientific accuracy of the Bible is the flood. Unbeknownst to most believers in this cataclysmic event, the entire episode is riddled with impossibilities and improbabilities. Some of the most obvious are the following. First, Genesis 6:15 says, quote, "The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits." A cubit's about 1.5 feet. "The width of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits, unquote. In other words, it would measure about 450 by 75 feet by 45 feet. Two problems with this are, A, it would be impossible to get two of every animal on a boat this size. It's too small. The food alone would require a whole fleet of arks this size. And B, there are over 2 million separate species of animals. How could they have all been taken on the ark? There are over 500,000 separate species of insects alone. Second, Genesis 6:17 says, quote, "I," that is God, "do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life, and everything that is in the earth shall die," unquote. Problems with this are, A, how were all the sea animals killed, such as seals, whales, porpoises, sea snakes, dolphins, and other animals that would relish more water? And B, how were the fishes killed and amphibians? After all, it says all flesh shall die. Third, Genesis 7:8-9 says, quote, "Of everything that creeps upon the earth, there went in 2 and 2 to Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded," unquote. In other words, the animals entered the ark by twos. This account contains many problems. A, are we to believe that animals just knew when the time had come and came in voluntarily? B, how did the animals know where the ark was located? C, how did animals that are restricted to certain parts of the earth, such as penguins, pandas, polar bears, koalas, and so forth, get to the ark? Pandas live only in western China, and koalas live only in Australia. D, the vegetation which many animals eat only grows in certain parts of the world. What did these animals eat during their journey to and from the ark and while on the ark? Pandas specialize in bamboo, and koalas eat only eucalyptus, for example. E, how did many of the animals withstand climatic changes? Animals from the polar regions could never have withstood the heat of the Middle East. F, slow animals from other continents, such as snails, sloths, turtles, and tortoises, must have started their journey to the ark long before the flood began in order to cover the thousands of miles and arrive on time. G, how animals from other continents managed to cross the oceans is anyone's guess. H, how did animals get back to their respective areas or regions? And I, how were animals kept from killing their natural prey, especially after being released? Fourth, Genesis 7:15 says, quote, "They went into the ark, two and two of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life," unquote. How did water creatures such as whales, dolphins, porpoises, sea snakes, and amphibians enter the ark? Remember, they have the breath of life also. And it says, all flesh with the breath of life entered the ark. What about fish? Gills require the breath of life just as much as lungs. Fifth, Genesis 7:20 says, quote, 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered, unquote. Authentic Egyptian history does not mention a flood, even though uninterrupted records were maintained from the Pharaoh Menes in 3400 BC to Darius Okus in 340 BC. The flood supposedly occurred around 2348 BC. 6. Genesis 8:4 says, quote, "The ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month on the mountains of Ararat," unquote. Notice it says mountains, plural. How could one ship rest on several mountains at once?